And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our candidates for Jackson County Sheriff. Again, that is Darryl Forte, the incumbent, and Mike Sharp, who is the candidate who is obviously the former sheriff. And so my questions, and we will have 30 minutes for this panel. And for my first question, we'll have a 2-minute answer. So the first question is, help us to understand the Sheriff's Department and what you do. What partnerships do you and should you have with other jurisdictions, including federal, state, and local governments? And we'll start with Mike.
Okay. Hi, Stacey.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm new to all this webinar stuff, so please bear with me.
Aren't we all?
As far as what the sheriff's office interaction is, the sheriff office encompasses so many different things within Jackson County. It's sex offender registration, patrol in the unincorporated areas, now the jail. They control over 5 courthouses and security. So there's a whole lot of things that every person in Jackson County has contact with the sheriff's office with on a daily basis that they probably don't even realize. One of the main things that I did when I was sheriff was I worked out a program with Kansas City Area Transit Authority where we had deputies that patrolled in behind buses or went to bus stops and made sure that the public transportation issues were addressed, along with 2 other Kansas City officers. Kansas City Area Transit Authority paid for those officers, paid their salaries in full, paid for all the equipment, and that provided 2 extra deputies on the street in Kansas City, throughout Kansas City, and a lot of the time in South Kansas City. It's very, very, very important that the homeowners associations realize that the knowledge that they have in their community, in their little part of the world in Kansas City, anything that they see needs to be relayed back to law enforcement so that we can help solve these crimes that are occurring. Jackson County is a big county. When I was sheriff, I thought that the citizens of Kansas City should get some of the same services that some of the citizens out in Eastern Jackson County got, as far as seeing deputies on the street. And that's one of the reasons why I worked closely with Kansas City Area Transit Authority and along with other agencies within the region. I know every police chief in this county. I know every law enforcement official in the area. That was my job. I went to meetings. Every meeting I could go to, I went. I knew their name. I've had conversations with every one of them. And that's how we all work together, is the building of those relationships. And that's what I did.
I guess it'd be helpful if I was unmuted. And so thank you for that. And Darryl Forte, if you could please answer the question, help us understand the Sheriff's Department and what you do. What partnerships do you have and should you have with other jurisdictions, including federal, state, and local governments? I see you and I hear you. I think you're there.
Yeah. I'm trying to get on the video.
Okay.
Okay.
There you are. There you are.
I think the most important partnership we have is with the U.S. Marshal's Office. Reached out to them early on in my tenure as sheriff. We have a member on the task force, and also at the Jackson County Drug Task Force. We have somebody on that task force. And I also, when I was chief of police at Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, I gave up 2 officers to KCATA because I realized how important that was to have the police, basically. But let me share with you all real quick. I spent most of my first 90 days making sure employees were actually showing up at work. So I didn't have a lot of time early on to develop those relationships. And then the second 90 days, I went through employee files. And one of the people that was assigned to KCATA by the former sheriff actually assaulted somebody on the bus. So we lost that position because he left the sheriff's office. I think it's important to build relationships with other agencies, but I think it's even more important to build relationships out there in the community. You know, there oftentimes I grew up in law enforcement, and we know all the other sheriffs and we know all the other people, but we don't know what's happening in the community. And I know a lot of the sheriffs. I've made every Missouri Sheriff's Association meeting. I hadn't missed any of those meetings. It's good networking, about 119 sheriffs in the county. I have a pretty good relationship with some of those people. I've been in this position about 2 years, and again, I think my most important relationship, because they've helped arrest and identify sex offenders in the community, is with the U.S. Marshal's Office. I talk to the U.S. Marshal on a regular basis, and I think that's one strong, solid relationship that I think will last for a long time.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And I should say also that there will be an opportunity to do a 2-minute closing statement as well. And again, I'll remind you that the questions have come from the neighborhoods. My next question is, and we'll start with you, Darryl, since you're on the screen there, is most neighborhoods are under KCPD jurisdiction of the Kansas City Police Department. How can and do and should you impact our communities and our neighborhoods on a regular basis?
And again, it goes back to communication. It goes back to communications directly from personnel from the sheriff's office. And I'll give you an example. About 2 weeks ago, the school resource officer at Ruskin, I visited with him in the parking lot out there for a while. So it's having relationships, not just through other agencies, but having direct contact out there in the community. I go, and I know Truman Corner is outside the boundaries of Kansas City, but I go to Truman Corner Shopping Center by Price Chopper, talk to people there all the time because they are South Kansas City residents. I go to Martin City all the time. I'm assigned a sheriff's motorcycle. It's just being out in the community. And again, we have our deputies out in those areas. We're responsible for mostly unincorporated areas in Jackson County, but I've allowed our deputies to go anywhere they want to in the county, as long as they're covering the other areas. So it's important that we're out there visible and making those relationships and developing and nurturing those relationships, not just showing up one time.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. Okay. Mike, if you could answer that.
Yes. It is important for us to be out in the community. There's no doubt about it. I was the first sheriff in many years that allowed deputies to actually go outside unincorporated areas of the county. So it was under my tenure that we started to allow Kansas City or Jackson County deputies into Kansas City and other municipalities. And I made agreements with the chiefs of police. They were more than happy to have the help. As you know, you can never have too many policemen on the street. When I was sheriff, I went to meetings after meetings. I was out in the neighborhood. I answered calls with my deputies. They saw me out there. I just didn't drive by and just wave at everybody. I actually got out and assisted with them. I've stood out on a cold winter day and directed traffic when we didn't have enough deputies to make calls. I was that guy. I'm one of the guys. I just recently received a unanimous endorsement by not only the Jackson County Deputies Association, but just now from Lodge 50. And I think Lodge 99, the Kansas City Police Department Association, is getting ready to come on board too. That says a lot about a guy that's at the top. That says a lot about leadership. That's who people want to work for. They want to work for somebody that gets out and gets with them and understands what it's like to be a police officer, but also understands what it's like to be in the community and knows people in the community. I went every part of this county as sheriff. Everybody knew me as sheriff. And I can go anywhere in this town now and still be called sheriff. And I feel very comfortable with that. And I would like to continue on what I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this next question, and Mike, if you stay there, this next question is a 4-minute question.
Right.
And so the question
Yes,
is, what can you do as sheriff to help with the spike in crime, in violent crime in Kansas City? You have 4 minutes for that one.
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. Because we've all been looking at that for many years. And how do we solve that? Is it drugs? Is it domestic violence? Is it a combination of a lot of different things? And right now what we're seeing is young people killing young people. So how do you reach them in a manner that they'll understand? And it starts in the schools, it starts at home and in the schools and in a more of a mentorship type environment where we can talk officers into just being mentors for these young people. so that they see that we're people too. We have families. I have grandchildren. I have a daughter, and these kids need somebody to look up to, and somebody that they can pick up the phone and call or text if they have a question or a problem, instead of picking up a gun and settling it with that. I have a program set up. I had one when I left that was set up for scouting as part of the oh my gosh, can't think of the name of it now, but it's part of the scouting program where kids come in and do through scouting. We tried to we set it up at Morning Star Baptist, and we had a couple of other locations. What we found was early on that children didn't have a way to get to us, and we even offered transportation to try to get the kids to us so that we could put them in the scouting program so they could learn about police work or fire service or EMS, any type of emergency services work, so they understand what we do and see what we do, so that when they see us, they're not afraid. We want people to know that don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of us. We're not going to hurt you. I swear. As sheriff, I never had one substantiated complaint from any individual about abuse of force. Not one. And I'll tell you why. It's because when I talk to my deputies after they're sworn in, I bring them together and I said, if you will treat everyone the way you want your mother treated, provided that you like your mother, then you will not have a problem in this world. Because if you treat everyone with respect and dignity from the very beginning, things will go very, very well for you. And I made it, and I didn't just tell them when they were sworn in. I kept reminding them of that. It's about people. It's about relationships. If we could just get more into areas where we can actually sit down and have a conversation with these kids that are pulling guns on each other and settling disputes with a weapon, if we could just reach out to them and figure out how we can just sit with them. And that's going to take people in the community to get this done. We're here to help. We're here to assist the community. We don't have all the answers. We need answers from you. We need to work together to figure out the answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Darryl, if you can answer that question too, what can you do to help with the spike in crime in Kansas City?
I think trust between the community and sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies. Without trust, and if you look at and listen to what's been going on the last couple of months specifically, and it's been going on for years. I've been in law enforcement for almost 35 years. If we don't have trust, and that starts with leading with integrity, and I want to talk about that. You know, the former sheriff just talked about, treating people the right way. He had sex with a direct report. So why would somebody trust him out in the community? You know, we can come on here and we can talk about what everybody else needs to do and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and those sorts of things. We had criminal activity occurring in the sheriff's office for years. And I'll give you an example real quick. I know I got 4 minutes, so I'm gonna talk pretty quick. I'll give you an example. Somebody pull up this minute, Jeff Jones on LinkedIn, and you'll see he was the former sheriff's campaign manager. And he doesn't have a picture on there. Jeff Jones has campaign material of the other sheriff. He did not come to work. He was on payroll for years and did not come to work and labels himself as an executive assistant. I just use that for an example. When you have law enforcement officials in an organization that watch that happen, and he's bragging about getting endorsements and things like that, this organization has been just destroyed with systematic racism and those sorts of things. There was 8 black males hired in the last 7 years. 8 black males hired in the last 7 years. I hired 7 of them. So we can come on and we can talk about what we're going to do and what we did for the Boy Scouts and at the church and all that stuff. But the facts are out there. Again, Jeff Jones, LinkedIn, you'll see it real quick. They're probably going to take it down now. This guy was on the books, and another guy I didn't even know worked there for 3 weeks until he quit. He was on the books. So when we talk about what's happening in the community, if they don't trust us as leaders, we're not going to make any progress. And you start talking about the endorsements. I have endorsements from all kind of unions and things like that, and mayors, including Kansas City and those sorts of things. But when you start bragging about you have endorsements of your local FOP, which one group, the leader just recently referred to George Floyd as a piece of SHI, you know what? And then he bragging about getting an endorsement for them. That's the culture, I think, in law enforcement. And I'm asking everyone, support me so we can change this. If this guy that's Sharp, if he was applying to become a deputy right now at the sheriff's office, he wouldn't be qualified. He left under scandalous conditions. Sex with his direct report. She was charged with the crime. So I say all this to say, we need to clean ourselves up before we start talking about what others in the community need to do. We need to make sure we're right, and we need to deal with the systematic racism within our organization. And it's real. People have been talking about it. We have to listen to the community, and the community is saying no more. They want transparency. They want accountability. They don't want a bunch of quick talk and about, like I said, the Boy Scout and Girl Scouts. Let's be real. We have a problem in law enforcement, and we have to clean that problem up before we reach out to other segments of the community and say, trust us. We care about you. They're not buying it anymore. We have to change how we operate inside. And I'll close with this. I've been there 2 years. Over 30 individual disciplinary actions has been dispensed by me for non-supervisors. Supervisors, 5 of them, have been suspended without pay for serious policy violations, including striking someone with handcuffs on, including ramming a police car or a sheriff's office car into another car, and including not recovering drugs for 89 days. And we still have guns and drugs missing. It's a reason people don't want me there, and I plan to be there because we're gonna keep uncovering some things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we're going to go back to you again, Darryl. This will be a quick one. This is a 1-minute question. You're in law enforcement as a sheriff. Should KCPD be under state control? The 1-minute answer.
Yes, state control, because when people talk about local control, nobody has really defined that. Will the mayor decide? Board of Police Commissioners? Will the Board of Police Commissioners no longer exist? Will the city manager? So without actually having a definition of what local control looks like, yes, I say yes. Leave it under state control until local control is defined. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike, if you can answer that.
Yes. Well, this may be the only thing he and I ever agree on. Yes, it needs to stay under state control.
Why?
The Board of Police Commissioners are a group of people that are selected, nominated up to the governor, and the governor selects them. It takes the politics out of law enforcement for the Kansas City police officer. It doesn't give a mayor, it doesn't give a city council person any special area that they can contact a commander of a division station or the chief and say, hey, I need something special done. They do it anyway, but it doesn't reflect on how they get.
I can't hear. Are you finished?
It is all about the police department gets a budget, the police.
I'm having a hard time hearing. I think you may have frozen up some. Mike? Okay, he's off. Let me ask. Let me check. Angie, can you hear me okay, Angie?
I got you back.
You're back. There you are.
We're having a computer problem here.
Okay, just want to make sure it wasn't on my end. Okay, so if you'd like to wrap up.
It was here.
Okay, if you would wrap up your last thought there, and then we're going to move on to our next question.
Say that again, ma'am.
If you wanted to wrap up your last thought, Mike, you were distorted there. If you had a last sentence you'd like to wrap up, we can move on to the next question, or were you finished?
I think, well, I just said that Darryl has spouted out a lot of mistruths and half-truths, but that's probably the only thing that he and I are going to agree on tonight.
Okay, very good. And if you'll stay there, the next question will come to you. How will residents be able to fairly evaluate your job performance once elected? And what tools or processes will you implement to capture such information to be able to report back out to your constituents? And then how frequently will you do that? And this is 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I want to do when I come back is I would like to set up a citizen advisory board within the sheriff's office that has people from all over the county to oversee any type of complaints that come into the against sheriff's deputies, that can also offer advice on management of the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office is big business. When I left, it was $8 million. Now with the jail, I'm not sure how much it is annually, the budget, but it is big business and it has to be run like a big business. And there are a lot of business people out there in our community that would be willing to help, I'm sure, and then also to help oversee and help us with disciplinary actions when needed and reviewing those disciplinary actions on deputies. I don't think everything should be investigated by, we have to have everything investigated, but then we take the investigative information and we hand it over to a panel and get a review of that and then make a decision on how we handle things. I think community involvement is going to be key. I don't know how we do it. I don't know how many yet. It would be something that we have to sit down and work through. But if it's 5 people, 6 people, we divide the county up into sections. I don't know. It's something that is definitely on my radar.
Thank you. Darryl, if you can answer the question too, how can residents fairly evaluate your job performance once selected?
I've been pretty active on social media from the first day. I've told the truth about a lot of things out there that probably some people will be uncomfortable with. I'm on social media, Facebook and Twitter, probably 2 or 3 times at least a week. I've held one-on-one meetings from the first week I was appointed in May of 2018. I've lost track of how many individual citizens I've met one-on-one with. I've held group community meetings, held meetings out in parking lots, and also not just reaching on the outside, talking about what I've done on the outside. I've met one-on-one over 75 of the 104 sheriff's deputies, one-on-one. I didn't ask anyone to come talk to me. They signed up to come talk to me, and that's how I know a lot of what's going on in the sheriff's office, and that's how I knew early on. But again, that's the question. We'll continue to do social media. We've had food drives. We had 4 in the last 6 weeks, food drives. They last about 4 hours, giving about $500 worth of food away. I mean, 500 individual families food. We've had backpack giveaways.
That's time. Darryl, maybe you can address that in your closing statement if you'd like, or unless you can incorporate it into another answer. So my next question is either, if you could stay up first, Darryl, either you, your department or office did or may have faced ethical issues in the past. What did you do to overcome them? And how will you ensure your office won't have ethical issues going forward?
We have a professional standards division that I just set up. They've been operational for about a year. They investigate complaints. Again, being transparent. I talk about what's wrong with the sheriff's office. I talk about the ghost employees. I just told you, John, what's his name, Jeff Jones, about that. I throw it out there. So people already knew. And my problem was in the sheriff's office. When I showed up, people knew there was criminal activity. People knew that he was dating his secretary or whomever she was to his girlfriend. People knew about the trips where they went on a conference call, conferences, and the county paid for a ski rack on the car. People knew all that. People knew that he didn't turn in his firearm and other people didn't. So I'm trying to change a culture, and that's difficult. That's why some of the people support him, because they knew what was going on. And then when I come in and I start disciplining people, they have a problem. Some people have a problem. Some people like it. Oh, about 104 deputies. There's a few that understand what we're trying to do. There's a few that come to me and say, thank you for being here. There's a few that said we couldn't say anything about what was going on because we were afraid. They operated from fear-based management. He left the organization in a scandal, under a scandal. And then he wants to come back. If we had a state misconduct review board, he wouldn't be talking to us today. All the things that happened, the criminal activity, it's not over. We got, again, guns and narcotics and things missing. It's not over. So I want people to know we're going to keep talking about it. And I plan on being here another 12 years. We're going to be here. We're going to talk about it. All the scandals. He admitted to some of the things. He left an elected office under scandalous conditions. If he applied for a deputy today or any other position within Department of Corrections or the Sheriff's Office, he wouldn't be eligible. And people said we don't need a state registry for misconduct. He left before it was investigated. Now he can show up and he can deny all he wants to. It's the truth. He left under scandalous conditions. Some of the facts are out there. Some are unknown to the public, but it's not over yet. And another guy, like I said, 3 weeks into my job, into my tenure here, a guy resigns. I didn't even know. He didn't even have a desk. The other guy didn't have a desk. Getting paid taxpayers' dollars. And then he's saying, well, no, it's a mistruth. It's the truth. Thank you.
Unmute. Okay, thank you. Mike, if you can respond and if you can answer the same question as well.
Yes, ma'am. I admitted to my faults. I fessed up to what I did. I had a relationship with a woman in my office a year prior to my resignation. I fired her for some misconduct, and then she was investigated and charged with a crime. That's what happened. That's the truth. That's what happened. Now, let's talk about Darryl. $500,000 from Kansas City Police Department when he left. He left out the back door. Nobody knows why for sure. Also, 139 kids in the child victims unit. Uninvestigated crimes while he was the chief of police. Uninvestigated children's crimes. How dare he? Those are kids, uninvestigated. And those were all his people on his watch, and he left and left it for Ricky Smith to have to clean up. Ricky Smith had to deal with that. And he talks about a minute ago about KCATA officer that assaulted somebody. Yeah, that happened. But it wasn't because that they left. It was because he didn't like the guys in charge of KCATA, and he didn't like it. And here we had 2 extra deputies on the road. So he took 2 law enforcement people off the road. All he had to do was replace the guy, fire him and replace him. And then he wants to talk about professional standards and a organization that you can report bad cops to. It's already in place. It's POST. It's a professional officer standards training. It's already there. When I was sheriff, I fired 5 people that can never be law enforcement officials again. And yes, Darryl, I can go somewhere else and be hired. I was offered jobs immediately after I left. I didn't leave under any pretense other than the fact that I was ready to go at that time. I had another job lined up, and your cronies down at the county decided they were going to smear my name. That's how it worked.
Okay, perfect timing. That's right at 2 minutes. Next question, moving on. The new jail. And we'd like, Mike, if you'd come back up again.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
just continue our pattern. What do you know about, what is the update with the new jail? We know that there's a work group that was appointed. And do you agree what is planned, or what would you do differently? Because this process, we as voters are saying, has been a long process.
Yeah, it's crazy. That jail was one of the reasons when I was sheriff, we had to go into that jail on several different occasions, along with the FBI and other local agencies, to clean it up and pull things out, such as phones and dope and just all sorts of different things. When I was sheriff, it was I that put on the ballot that the sheriff take over the jail again. Now, nobody in their right mind really wants a jail, but Jackson County Jail was in such disarray that the county executive couldn't control it. He had no idea what to do. As far as a new jail, I'm a big believer in the regional jail concept, where it's not just Kansas City or Jackson County, it's every city in this county has so many beds in the jail. Prisoners in outside area facilities. When Darryl was chief of police in Kansas City, he got rid of the jail, which put Kansas City in a bind. He got rid of the 8th floor facility in Kansas City. So then it put Kansas City in a bind. Now they have to ship everybody out. So Kansas City prisoners aren't even in Kansas City now. They're all shipped out outside of the area. We need to bring everything back into Jackson County. We need to put Jackson County citizens to work in Jackson County. We will be able to fill those positions throughout with Jackson County citizens if we put it centrally. Yes, ma'am.
That's time.
Thank you.
That's time. Joel, if you can answer the question.
Yes, I've been a part of the jail steering committee since May of 2019. From what I understand, the owner's rep will be in town in the next month or so to present in front of the legislature and give them an update. There will be a new jail. And I did not put Kansas City in a bind. The former county executive and the former city manager made a deal where they could transport our people because our jail wasn't suitable. I care about humanitarian efforts, so ours wasn't suitable. We had no shower. We had no sanitary kitchen. So the city manager agreed, along with the former county executive, to make a deal with the jail. And we do house Kansas City inmates now, some of Kansas City. We don't have enough capacity, and with COVID, we really don't have capacity, but we have space for 40 Kansas City detainees. So we do have space in the jail. And again, we're building the jail. We need a jail. The multi-level jail that we have now is outdated, requires too much staffing. We will save the county money by a reduction in staff, but some of those staff members, since the jail's under me, can be transferred over to help with some of the sex offender registration and things like that. We're going to do things that save the county money, not just out there grandstanding and doing those sorts of things. We'll have union involvement. If it's up to me, I'll be at the table like I have been from day one to do some of those things. And it might come up later about I missed some meetings. People don't know, but 4 months into my elected term as sheriff, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I went through some treatments last year. I just finished my radiation treatments this year. So some people are going to say, well, he doesn't go to meetings. And even before that, I'm not making excuses. If it's wasted meetings and I have no reason to be there, I don't go to meetings. I'd rather be out in the community talking to people. So when that comes up and people talk about Darryl missed meetings and Darryl does this, I've probably been the most visible chief of any chief at any time. I left with the 4-month, 2-month notice for me to retire. So there's no scandal involved. Thank you.
That's time. As a matter of fact, we are at the end of our segment, and I wish we had more time. But what we'd like to do now is to wrap it up by asking each of you, and we'll go back again to Darryl, to do your final 2-minute wrap-up comments. And we thank you both for being here. So Darryl?
Thank you for the opportunity. But I say, please help me to continue to transform the Jackson County Sheriff's Office into a premier law enforcement agency. I've demonstrated in my almost 35 years, next month will be 35, that I'm competent. I've led with integrity. I have an unblemished record. I had 1,900 employees at the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. I was over a $240 million budget, not just as chief, but as deputy chief. I was directly responsible for that. I was responsible for $84 million plus in capital improvement projects when I was the chief of police. So I'm ready and I'm willing and able to assist with building this jail. I'll continue to be out in the community. I'll continue to lead with integrity. I'll continue to make sure the sheriff's office becomes a premier law enforcement agency that provides the services they need to. So there's a lot of scandal in law enforcement, and I'm listening to the community out there like I have been for almost 35 years. They're saying no more. They want leaders with integrity. They want leaders that they can trust. They want leaders that have demonstrated that they can go out there and they can do some things. When I was chief of police and they had civil or protests, and really wasn't civil unrest, I marched with the people. They took pictures with me and things like that. There was not a single window shattered. There was not a single match lit. Just recently, I've been on national TV as an expert. I bring credibility to the sheriff's office. I didn't leave the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department to go pursue anything else. I left because I had served 31 years, 5.5 years as a sheriff, as chief, and I was ready to do something different. I went to law school. I graduated there with my master's of law from UMKC. I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to grow. I'm excited about the future of the sheriff's office. So I'm asking you all to support me. I've demonstrated my entire career that I'm ethical, I operate with integrity, and I'm not afraid to make difficult decisions. And I'll continue to make difficult decisions to move us forward. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Good timing. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Let me get this thing right here. Are you there?
Yes, we're ready for your 2-minute final statement.
Thank you. When I took over the Jackson County Sheriff's Office in 2009, it was considered a security company, basically. All they did was provide security at the courthouses and did a little bit of sex offender registration work. I took them and we started from the ground up, basically. We have now new equipment, we have a new office, we have a new radio system. We had 40% compliance on convicted sex offenders in Jackson County. Jackson County has over 2,200 convicted sex offenders living in the county, the largest in the state, largest number of convicted sex offenders in the state. We were at 95% with a zero tolerance. They didn't come in and comply with us. We developed an ordinance that we could charge those individuals for $300 a time they didn't come in. When you get in their pocket, you get their attention. They decided they would all come in and comply, at least most of them. Like I said, the numbers were up. We did a lot. I hired minorities. I hired minorities, as many as I could. The problem with hiring minorities when I was sheriff, money. When I was sheriff, I got the guys, the deputies, 19.5% pay raise at the end there in 2015, 16. 19.5% pay raise in one shot. That made it easier for me to hire people, especially those of minorities. Minorities are premium in the law enforcement business. I couldn't afford to keep them. I couldn't. When Kansas City would pay $10,000 to $20,000 more a year, and then in Missouri you can go over into Kansas and work, Overland Park,
That's time.
and
Mike, you're delayed.
An American officer can go there.
Oh, I think we have a technical problem. Mike, you're delayed a little bit, you're distorted, but we're right at the 2 minutes. And so I don't know if you can hear me okay. I see your screen looks frozen. Okay, but we're at the end of the 2 minutes. So I wanted to say thank you very much to both you and Darryl for being with us today, our current sheriff and Mike Sharp. Thank you both for being with us today.